First order of business, our speaker, and we're glad to have him tonight. I've asked Bob Scott. Bob is the mayor of the town of Franklin, and Bob is going to give a brief introduction to this young man, and he's going to come give us some good information. Bob?
I just want to say it's a real pleasure to welcome Paul Meyer, Executive Director of the North Carolina League of Municipalities, to Franklin, not Macon County, but to Franklin.
Macon County.
All right, I've already put up with that long enough tonight. So. But Paul is the 6th Executive Director of the North Carolina League of Municipalities. He initially joined the League as the Chief Legislative Counsel in 2009, and most recently, he served as the Director of Governmental Affairs. And before joining the League, Paul was lobbyist and legal counsel for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. And he was there for more than 10 years, and he was ranked number 25 on the list of the most effective lobbyists in the state of North Carolina in 2008. Paul is the treasurer for North Carolina Go, which is North Carolina's voice of transportation. He is a graduate of Wake Forest University and received his law degree from Campbell University. Paul lives in a historic neighborhood in downtown Raleigh with Karen and his 2 young children. Welcome to Franklin, Paul.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I was told I'm sorry. Let me try again. How's that?
Better.
Wow. Okay, when you said close, you really meant close. Yeah. My wife's going to be mad at me kissing a microphone tonight, so that was a joke, guys. Okay. I'm here to, we just distributed the municipal advocacy goals for the League, and for those of you that are in the County Association, you know that the County Commissioners Association just had their legislative goal-setting process last week. Ronnie Beal, as you know, is the president of the County Association, and the League has a similar process through which we develop our goals. So you can see the municipal goals on that lovely blue glossy. Ronnie, how many goals does the county have for the biennium?
45.
45. So the League has 25 legislative goals and a handful of regulatory goals, and we'll talk a little bit about those, but I wanted everybody to understand where we are in the process. As cities, we're setting up for the biennium. So that blue folder, that blue glossy in front of you, are our goals for the next 2 years. These are the things that we hope to get the legislature to do. Now, of course, there are lots of things that they want to do that are not in there that we will try to prevent them from doing or work with them on, depending upon whether those are ideas that will help us or not. But anyhow, those are kind of the goals. I'm going to run back here and take us through a presentation. I'm sorry I'm kind of in the corner. Really, for this upcoming session, the money at the state level is driving the entire process. So what I have here is a presentation that I did not put together, but instead the Fiscal Research Division of the North Carolina General Assembly has provided this update for legislators. I think last week they rolled this out for them just to give everybody a sense of what the fiscal conditions are at the state level. Why am I talking to you about this? I'm talking to you about this because if things get really bad at the state level, that will impact what they do to local government in a very meaningful way, whether you're a county or whether you're a city. We'll go into that in just a minute. So I'm going to go relatively quickly through this if I can get it to turn. Hold on a second. All right, this is working well.
Can I push a button, please?
Yeah, if you could, that'd be very helpful. All right, great. To go back, okay, so here are the highlights of where we are at the state level right now. The state's trailing behind about $200 million from what they thought their collections were going to be. So when I say back $200 million, that's based on the projections after the tax reform bills that they passed in 2013. If you remember, the state reduced taxes pretty dramatically in 2013, effective 2014. So this is $200 million short of even those tax cuts. So why is that happening? It's happening really because when they made the changes, there were a number of folks that are withholding. There are folks withholding more than they otherwise would right now, and so the expectation is that all this money is coming back around April 15th. There's so many changes in the tax code right now that they're saying they think they're off $200 million because folks are doing things differently than they've been doing before, businesses and individuals, and they expect all of it to come back at April 15th. So this year, more than ever, if we don't have an April surprise, the state's really going to be behind. Ronnie, can you advance that thing for me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you look right here, our sales tax numbers are actually up, which is great news for counties and cities and for the state government. The corporate income tax is up, so the state benefits from the corporate income tax. It's the personal income tax where things have gotten a little bit off, and that's because people are doing things differently in response to the 2013 changes. Let's keep rolling. Here's the chart. You see everything up there is positive except for individual income, down $250 million. So what happens if that trend continues and we get to April 15th and it doesn't clean itself up? It means that when the state's putting its budget together for 2015-16, that they're going to be looking for money all over the place. And one of the places they'll be looking for money could be cuts to what counties receive. It could be additional mandates on counties. So for those of you that are county commissioners, this would be pretty important. Of course, if they make cuts to county money, then the counties are going to be looking for money absolutely everywhere they can get it, which means bad things for municipal governments, because it is through the sharing of the sales tax through counties that municipalities get their money. So all this trickles downhill, just like what goes down in plumbing. You know, it's the same idea. Everything sinks from the top to the bottom. Let's keep rolling. Okay, let's keep going to, a lot of graphs. We'll keep going. Let's go to page 11. I think page 11 is where I want to go. That's not where I want to go. Anyhow, bottom line is, I'm not going to bore you with this anymore. They're behind right now. They're behind more than they thought they were going to be behind. The governor is pushing, they're already pushing for more money for teachers because they realize they need to do something. Where that money comes from, I don't know when they're trailing behind. But conceptually, all the economists and all sort of the projections say they have no idea whether the tax cuts that were made in 13, will work to create all the jobs that everybody is hoping that it will create, and we won't know for a number of years. So for local government, it's a fair amount of uncertainty for probably the next 3 or 4 years, which means that it's job security for the League of Municipalities and for the County Commissioners Association. Now, I'm going to try to shift to this other presentation that I have up there. And I don't know exactly how we're going to do that, but we're going to shift. While they're doing that, let me say a few things. I've been at the League for about 6 years. I've been the director for about 11 months. If you all remember, we did not have a Director of Governmental Affairs last year because I was both the Director of the League and the Governmental Affairs Director, which was pretty tough sledding. So the great news is we have a new Director of Governmental Affairs for the municipalities. That person's name is Rose Vaughn Williams. So all those emails you were getting from me all those years will now have her name on them, and you'll be very pleased with her. Rose has been lobbying for about 9 years. She's been the Director of the Legislative Liaison for the North Carolina Department of Insurance. Very well respected, works well on both sides of the aisle and both chambers. For those, so the municipal folks and the county folks have just gotten, I think, a tremendous amount of help, and I'm back in business. All right. So, in terms of our agenda, we're going to talk about the election, how it wrapped up, looking ahead to 15, and then some upcoming events. Okay, election wrap up. Let's try again. There we go. All right, so this is kind of old news, but all of you know there was a lot of money spent on elections in our state and not a lot of change. We have, as you can see, we have actually more, we still have a supermajority in both the House and Senate, Republican majorities. We had some House members lose their elections. We had, I think, we had some new folks in the building, but at the end of the day, not a lot changed from the 13-14 session heading into 15. In the Senate, we still have significant majorities in the Senate, and so you have the same leadership in the Senate. Here are the new leaders in the House, and I hope y'all know these people. Ronnie's telling me something here, I believe.
You can push it.
There we go. So hopefully you all know these people or have met them. Tim Moore is the new House Speaker. Tim is from Kings Mountain, North Carolina. His father is on the city council out there and has been for a long time. He's a good friend of the league. We've worked very well with him over the years. He understands municipal issues. We don't always agree, but there's always a good conversation, and that's pretty much all I can ask out of any House or Senate member. Skip Stam is from Wake County. He's a long-serving member of the House. Mike Hager is from Cleveland County, relatively new. I think Representative Hager maybe is coming into his second term. I think last year may have been his first term. And David Lewis, who's been in the legislature for quite a while. This is a good group here for municipalities, very receptive to what we are asking for, and I think for county governments as well. I encourage you when you come to Raleigh for whether it be Town Hall Day or County Assembly Day, I think y'all still call it County Assembly Day, guys? Make sure you go by and see these folks. Unfortunately, we did lose one of our best senators, one of our best friends for cities, Gene McLaurin. He was Gene McLaurin, who was
You'll do it?
This isn't working at all, but we're trying.
We framed out all of it.
I'm going to say, you've seen the whole presentation now. When in doubt, right? That's why you have this. All right. So in the Senate, basically, same leadership in the Senate. Not a lot has changed. Gene McLaurin was one of our best allies in the Senate. He was the mayor of Rockingham, and unfortunately he lost in a pretty tight election. There are 4 incumbent House members that lost. These folks, most of these folks really were not as helpful to us as we had hoped. Probably one y'all know the most about, Tim Moffitt out this direction. He I believe, stated at one point that mayors were that mayors are more qualified to be homeowners association directors than they should be mayors running a town. He was tough on cities, so we weren't too sad to see him go. But he was a good man to talk with and work with. He was always receptive to listening and talking to us, which is a good thing. And I think this presentation is just totally going haywire on folks.
The slides are flipping on by themselves.
They're flipping by themselves. That's pretty impressive.
They're blaming on me.
So what do we look? So what does it all mean? So we've gone through an election where not a lot changed. Cities and counties were under a fair amount of attack over the last the last 6-8 years. We're kind of in the same situation. What does that mean for everybody moving into this session? Well, when in doubt, you throw this away and just talk. What it means is, on the revenue side, there's going to be a lot of pressure, particularly on, I think, the municipal side. The privilege tax. I don't know how many of y'all have a privilege tax in your town. Is this even an issue out here? Okay. So the privilege tax was repealed last year after the Retail Merchants Association worked for about 10 years to get that gone. That was repealed effective July 1/15. So that means cities across the state are going to be down about $62 million. Okay, so you're either looking at cities cutting services, or you're looking at cities increasing property taxes, or a mixture of both. So in the context of what is going to be tax reform 3.0 or 2.0 or whatever you want to call it in this session, we're working with Senate leadership and House leadership to try to find a way to replace the $62 million that cities have lost and not lose anything else. What is tax reform 2.0? It's an ongoing attempt by the Senate leadership to expand the sales tax base to include a wide range of services so that they can either reduce or eliminate the corporate and personal income taxes. That's the stated goal of folks in the Senate finance leadership. So we had some major reductions in the personal income tax and the corporate income tax last year. Here we go. It's up on cue. It's behind me now. We had some major changes in the income tax structure in 2013, and so there's an ongoing effort to essentially eliminate the personal income tax. Some of you are saying, why is that even being considered? It's because some states that we think we are competing with directly, like Texas and Florida, do not have a personal income tax. So the idea is, if those taxes were eliminated, we would be, able to recruit businesses and jobs and all that sort of thing. So what does that mean? What we're really talking about is converting our economy from our tax structure from an income tax base to a consumption basis. And so the way to get there is by taxing services. So doctors, lawyers, engineers, architects, landscapers, auto mechanics, everybody, as a way to raise enough money to do this. So conceptually, we've been told that the replacement of the privilege tax will come through the expansion of the sales tax base. That by expanding the base to all these services that aren't being taxed today, there'll be enough money on the table for municipalities to gain back what they lost. And presumably for counties to get a share of the sales tax would be growth in the sales tax base. That's what's being talked about up in Raleigh. There are lots of different variations on this proposal, but at the end of the day, this is what the Senate leadership, the Senate finance leadership will be driving forward. The House leadership probably has a different perspective because they've already come out and said they have a different perspective. So what does that mean for y'all? I think what that means is a train wreck. I mean, it means a lot of discussion about changing taxes that'll take a lot of the session. So it's pushed you into June, July. Y'all are already trying to pass your budgets. I think what that means is y'all passing a budget not knowing what's going to happen. I mean, I think that's really what it is. And I know for counties, with your connection to education, that's always the case. For cities, that's not usually the case, but we're going to be dealing with that this time around. So what are we doing? We're obviously working with Senator Ruccio and the Senate finance leadership to talk about this, try to figure out how cities can benefit from this. I know we'll be working with the Association of County Commissioners because inevitably there are going to be some changes that affect both of us. And I'm hoping we won't be at odds with one another, that instead we'll be working together. Ronnie was at the league board meeting on Thursday. We invited him to come, and I believe y'all will be inviting us to come to the board meetings, which is something that hadn't happened in a number of years. So we're trying to build the bridge before the water rises too high, on issues like this. So I guess that's sort of the bleak outlook on money. There's another element, though, to this that's being talked about, and that is redistributing the local sales tax base from its current distribution formula. Right now, the majority of the sales taxes are returned to the county where the sale is made. So if you have a sale here in Franklin, the money would come back to the county and be distributed amongst the municipalities based on formulas. There is, and after the sale took place, but just divided up on a per capita basis statewide. So what does that mean? That means that in heavy retail areas that are used to getting sales tax money coming back to them, that money is going to be sent to other parts of the state. That may help you all up here. I don't know whether it will or not. I haven't seen the charts. I know that means 24 counties. 24 counties lose, 76 counties win, is the way if I understand it correctly. And the municipalities within those counties will lose, and the municipalities within those counties will win. So why are we talking about doing this? The stated purpose is so that we can export, let me make sure I get this right, make sure that every part of the state gets to enjoy the economic recovery that's taking place in North Carolina. So it's not just the primarily large metro areas. At least that's conceptually the idea. This was talked about in the 2014 session with a bill very late in the session. It was House Bill 1224. The League was opposed to that bill. The County Association was kind of like supported one week, opposed the next week. I think they were trying to figure it out. It was a pretty fast-moving bill, so I don't blame them for trying to figure it out. But it'll end up pitting ourselves against each other. And I think conceptually why that's being done is because we made the cuts in 13. This stuff used to happen with state revenues, but now the state revenues have been reduced to the point that they don't have enough to redistribute the state money. So now there's talk about using the local tax base for that. So just know that that's out there as part of Tax Reform 2.0, and it means it's actually very important for everybody in this room, because what you're used to receiving you may not receive if the rules change. Anyhow, other items for this session that I know that we're working on. I'm glad I wasn't standing there. That's good. We're working on historic tax credits. Has that been used up here by commercial businesses to rehab old, sort of abandoned properties? Is that something that y'all care about? Yes?
We're hoping to use it.
You're hoping? So last session, when this tax was, as part of the reform in 13, there were a number of tax credits and sort of tax preferences that were in our code that were eliminated as part of that streamlining, and the historic tax credit was one of them, as was the film credit you probably read about or heard about. And so as one of the goals that we have in our blue pamphlet is to get the historic tax credit program reenacted so that private businesses in towns all across the state will be willing to take a chance on renovating and reusing these buildings. So that's something that we know is going to be up front for us. Other issues for this session, extraterritorial jurisdiction. We have always, of course, in cities, a lot of folks that live in the ETJ, I shouldn't say that. Some folks that live in the ETJ don't like that the city is making decisions for them on land use issues. Some people that live in the ETJ, they want that to happen. I think it probably depends on where you are in the state, how your land use, how land use is run. But every year there's a push to either eliminate the extraterritorial jurisdiction authority of cities completely, or to make some major changes. So last year there was a bill in Boone that resulted in the repeal of Boone's extraterritorial jurisdiction. So just north of y'all. And the city of Boone has filed a lawsuit against the state, which has led to an injunction over the bill taking effect. Why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this to say that extraterritorial jurisdiction issues are going to be back in the legislature this year. And everybody in this room may be very excited about that, but not everybody in our membership is excited about that. So we'll be working on that. We've been able to work collaboratively with County Association on this in the past, because there are a number of counties where they want the cities to be involved in land use. Of course, the rub is for the folks that can't vote for the city officials, and yet their land use decisions are being made for them by the city. The League, if you read in the blue, we have a proposal that will help to deal with that issue, and we're hoping to get some traction on it. Other issues, there are some proposals out there. If you are a city official, there is a proposal to take all the municipal elections and take them off of the odd-numbered years and put them on the general election. There were proposals last year to do that, and the year before. We were able to talk everybody out of doing that, but there's more traction on that this year. So if you're a city official, just know that there are folks in Raleigh looking to push you onto the general election, whether you want it or not. There are also proposals that will convert your nonpartisan elections to partisan, and also to change locally your election style to be a one-size-fits-all set by Raleigh, not determined by your local area. So just know that that's out there. I don't know of any changes on the county election style, but note for cities that is definitely in play. There are a number of other things that I could talk about, and I know that I'm going to get the hook from Mayor Scott, so I'm going to ask if there are questions. I got a whole bunch in here. What do you want to talk about? I've got probably 10 minutes? Mr. Chairman? Sure. Yeah. Okay. I'm just checking. What do you want to talk about? Yes, sir.
One thing was up there that,
Yeah.
from Highlands.
Okay, great.
The legislation on aesthetics and ordinances such as tree ordinances, we were hearing that those were on the bubble last year. Where do you think they are now?
So the question for everybody is, there were bills last year that would eliminate the authority of cities to regulate trees and aesthetics and things that a lot of towns are interested in regulating. I expect all those bills will be back again this year. The tree bill was, last year was the second year that bill was run, so I expect, three's a charm, so I think it'll be back again this time. The aesthetics bill, just for everybody's edification, there are a number of cities that have regulations over the aesthetics of new construction. Massing and configuration and just a variety of things to keep the look and feel in a neighborhood kind of consistent. This is particularly true when there's no deed restrictions in a given area or it's an infill type of a development. So that bill was in its 6th iteration last year, and we were able to defeat that bill for the 6th year in a row. But I expect it will be introduced again. We have in here a proposal that will make it something that I think will satisfy everybody, the cities and the developers who don't want that. So I don't want the cities to have that authority. So we're trying to meet folks in the middle, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. Yes, sir.
Could you point out where your ETJ falls in this pamphlet? Did you say it was in here?
Yeah.
Point out where it is.
Yeah, now, of course, I don't have my glasses on. It's a little bit dark. So I may have to find you after, when I get my flashlight out so I can actually read the thing. Is that all right? Okay, it's in here. The structure of it is actually like a blended city-county process, not just a city process. So the cities would maintain some authority. The counties would probably have a little more authority, but it would provide an opportunity for everybody who's elected somebody to have somebody as part of that voice. It's a solution that's been used in a lot of other states. We think it has merit. Our membership push for that. Yes, sir.
If they change the municipal election to the general, what would be the transitional year? How would that work?
So the question is, if the municipal election was pushed into the even-numbered year, what kind of transition or phase-in would there be? My guess is it would be done ASAP, like they might even, they might try to make a change for the 2015 general election. I don't know how they would do that. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen a bill, so I don't know. Just out of curiosity, what do the city officials in this room think about that proposal? Because I've gotten a blend of answers. What do y'all think about that? Okay, I've got not good, I've got sucks. What else? What else?
It looks like
It's a technical term.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Meyer.
Yes.
Maybe I don't know what their concerns are. To me, one, having it on the off year is an unnecessary expense. Number two, since that's the only thing that's election turnout, it stinks.
yeah.
So I'm wondering what are the cons against moving it to the statewide election?
Yeah. I think the question for everybody, or the comment was, it seems like it would save money if we push it to the general election, so that we could streamline this thing. What would be the cons to having it on an even-numbered year? What I've heard, I'm going to extrapolate from what you said just a minute ago. What I've heard is, with the municipal election, with having such a long ballot, because you'd end up, conceptually, you'd have this huge ballot. You'd have voter fatigue at the bottom. With the municipal elections be at the bottom, so that would be voter fatigue. What happens if we have to do something in the off year? If we've eliminated the entire off year election, which is conceptually what's being discussed is to just get rid of any odd-numbered year elections, so it locks you down on state issues that might change or bond referendums that a city or a county might be trying to run. So I think there's a grab bag of pros and cons on this, which is why I'm asking what people think. What else? Well, don't be bashful.
When would you go by registering and stuff? You know, kids graduate from high school, they wouldn't register for an election.
Yeah. Comment was, if you pushed it off another year, kids graduating high school wouldn't register because they'd be on and off, potentially off. What else? I can talk about other issues. Just tell me what issues you want to talk about. Yes, sir.
Annexation, you said ETJ, any movement on changes on annexation?
Question is, any changes on annexation? Annexation policy changed in 2011 and 2012. Municipalities used to have the ability to have city-initiated annexations. And that authority was curtailed pretty significantly by the General Assembly. I don't envision there's going to be a lot of change. I know there are a lot of people concerned that when they changed that, they also eliminated the ability of a city to fill in a donut hole. So, and this would probably be an issue for a bigger city where you've got a huge land mass and then you got the county regulating in really small pockets, creates incredibly inefficient government. So there's conversation about trying to clean that up. That's been talked about for the last couple of years. But in terms of major overhaul, I don't know of any. There was a proposal a couple of years ago to get rid of voluntary annexation as an authority, which I don't even understand that because it's people asking to be part of the city. So I don't really fundamentally, I don't understand that. So I don't think that will occur. I think for cities, one of the other issues that's important that's being talked about is to what extent can a city continue to operate and control a utility system. So there was conversation obviously out in Asheville about the ownership of the water system in Asheville, and you all probably know the details of that way more than me. But there are fights about that issue, and of course if you change the authority of a city to run a utility, I don't know what that means for growth patterns in our state, because that's pretty fundamental to how growth in counties and cities occurs. So I think that's an issue that is of grave concern. There's one other issue I did not mention that is very important for cities in particular, and that is for those of you that receive HAL bill money, which is a portion of the gas tax that cities use to help pay for transportation, either maintenance or development. It is a percentage of the state gas tax. The state gas tax resets 6 months in arrears. So the gas tax reset in January of 2015, and it actually went up in the middle of a period of time where gas prices were dropping steeply. However, in July 2015, it's going to reset again, and it follows the wholesale price of gasoline, which is really low right now, which means we expect 6 to 7 cents in gas tax drop, and PAL bill is based on the wholesale price of gas, so PAL bill funds will be way down for fiscal year 15-16 unless the General Assembly does something to prevent that drop. The state also will lose a bunch of money because they get the gas tax. So there's conversations right now about how to prevent that. We have traditionally said, as a state, we're going to cap the gas tax. Now there's a conversation about putting a floor on the gas tax to prevent it from dropping too much, because that would hurt the ability of the state to do what it needs to do. So anyhow, word of the wise for the municipal folks, keep your eye on that. What else? And then I'm going to sit down, because I know you guys got a long agenda ahead of you. What other issues? County issues, city issues I can talk to you about?
What's the chances on the purchases on the internet?
The question is, how about any changes on taxation on the internet? So there was a bill in Congress called the Marketplace Fairness Act. The Association of County Commissioners, the League, Retail Merchants Association, we all supported that. It was going to provide, it would require online retailers to collect sales tax, whether there was a physical nexus or not. Congress wrapped up lame duck session without passing that bill, even though it had passed the Senate. It's the first time it had ever passed one of the two chambers. I would not expect that that's going to come back, and it'll be reintroduced, but it's not going to go anywhere, given the gridlock that we have in Congress, which means that cities, counties, and states will continue to not collect from online retailers unless there is a physical connection in the state.
Municipal broadband.
Municipal broadband. Just a quick primer on municipal broadband. Between 2007 and 2012, there were bills introduced in the legislature to take away the authority of municipalities to own and operate any type of broadband systems, telecommunication systems. Those bills were introduced by cable companies and by AT&T and other communication groups. And we were able to defeat those bills for 5 years, and then in 2012 we lost that issue. Cities were not able to then own and operate. We had probably 3 or 4 cities that were pretty far out there in terms of having pretty large, robust systems. They asked the incumbent provider to step it up for their businesses. They were told no, and they said, okay, well, businesses, if you're not going to do it, then we're going to do it because we don't want to lose these businesses from our local areas. And of course, once those operations got up and running, the fight in the legislature got even more intense. Y'all probably heard the President in his State of the Union address talked a fair amount about this. He's asked the FCC, I think, to override, I don't know how exactly that happens, but to override all of the state's bills that passed that prevented municipalities, or I guess counties as well, from operating broadband systems, because the idea is it's better for the entire country to have connectivity and access to technology. So there's a big push at the federal level. I know the county association in our state's talking about having some form of broadband investment by local communities. So that issue is being talked about again. Whether they'll pass a bill to allow that, I would tend to think not. The bill that was passed in 12 was too extreme, though, so there may be a way to dial some of that back. So the counties have some authority, and the municipalities have more authority than they have today. What else? Am I done? Mr. Chairman, am I done?
Thank you, Paul.
Am I done? I think I'm done.
Paul, since you're in Franklin and as the mayor, I'll give you permission to leave. You've got other actual stuff. But before you go, we just want to give you a little token of appreciation for your being here tonight.
Oh, thank you. That's very
That's
kind.
our hiker logo.
That is kind of you.
And
Thank
you're
you.
welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me tonight. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You and your boss.
I can do one.